Part of me giggles internally whenever I see people spell Keno, K-E-A.
Yeah, that pisses me off.
It happens all the time on Twitter, and I smile.
Oh, does it? Listeners, hello, welcome back. For the fans, back again. Our 21st show of the season.
We're legal.
I've been keeping track. Yeah, we are now legal. And this week we are joined by the ever familiar Work the Space, otherwise known as Jack.
Hello, yeah, I'm here. Lincoln won. Well, happy to talk about that. Yeah, spoilers, we're talking about that.
We'll get to that. And as ever, Callum Keane joins us as well.
Hi.
All right.
Good. Yeah, not bad.
And finally,
I didn't really know what to say then.
Fourth member of the podcast, Proudy, is at work. He's at work, so he's not here. We will, though, get to talk about Proudy just now.
No, he's at football training, Ben.
No, that's Tuesdays, I think. I think he's working. Anyway, regardless of where Proudy is, forget about him, because the trio are back. And we're ready to discuss some FA Cup and some Premier League preview stuff as well coming up in today's show. But without any further ado, let's go to this week's feature. And if you listened to the end of last week's show, you'll know that this week's feature includes the predictions we made for the FA Cup fixtures. Now, did you enjoy FA Cup weekend, boys?
I did. I embraced it more than I embraced the Champions League this week.
That's very true, probably.
Honestly, I'm not sure I enjoyed it as much as the Champions League, but that was just because the Champions League was amazing this week.
Yes, it was a very good Champions League.
If we hadn't have had those two good games this week, I probably would have said, it was probably the best FA Cup weekend for a while.
Right then, so what we're going to do is we all made predictions, including Proudy, so we'll include him in this as well.
He can win the feature and he might not even be here.
That would be tragic.
If you get just a goal away, if you're one goal away from having the correct answer, but the results have to be correct. You can't just so for example, if it's 1-0, but to the wrong team, no point. That's not how it works. You get 1 point. For the correct result, as in if you predicted Lincoln to win, they won, 3 points. And if you get the exact score, 5 points.
Okay.
Right? Got that?
Yeah.
So we'll kick things off with Burnley versus Lincoln. Proudy said 8-0 to Burnley.
To who?
I think he should lose points for
he then changed it to 3-0 Burnley. Regardless, no points. Jack, you and I both went for 2-1. So we don't get the extra point on that, but we do get 3 points each. And Keno, talk us through your prediction.
What did I say again?
It was 3-1 Burnley. Now, you were a little bit wrong, because it wasn't quite 3-1 Burnley.
Yeah, I think I was probably a bit optimistic that Burnley would score some goals, if I'm honest.
Yeah, you were. Incorrect. Of course, Lincoln winning 1-0. So far, Jack, me and you both have 3 points.
Can I just say,
Keno, 0 points.
We weren't going to talk about that show on last week's show originally. Keno writes the running orders, and he handed it in, and Lincoln weren't there. And I said, we have to talk about Lincoln.
It was just, I just missed it out. I didn't.
Your excuse, I believe, was, I think we should talk about Arsenal v Sutton, because Sutton have more chance of beating Arsenal than Lincoln do beating Burnley.
That is true. He did say that. I can't defend that because he did say it.
No, I'm not sure.
That's what happened.
You've been thrown under the bus there, and I'm not sorry.
Right, 4 games to go. The result was Blackburn 1, Manchester United 2. Goal from Danny Graham, by the way. That was enjoyable.
Yeah.
Proudy went with 2-0 Manchester United. So it was also...
that was a good one.
Yeah, only a goal away. So he gets 4 points for that. He gets a correct result and 1 goal away. Jack, you went for the upset, the 1-0 Blackburn.
I mean, it wasn't far off.
I mean, it was wrong. Keno, you went for 1-0, so 3 points to you because you correctly predicted Manchester United win. And I similarly went 3-0, so I was very similar to you there.
Proudy's going to win the feature, isn't he? And he's not even here.
We'll see. Proudy with 4 points in that one then. I move on to 6 points. Keno, you're on 3 points with Jack. Right. Next game was the Titans of Arsenal versus the Titans of Sutton. It finished 2-0 Arsenal. Proudy went for a 1-1 and then a 5-0 on the replay for Arsenal. 0 points all round. Not good. Jack.
Yeah, I can't remember what I predicted here.
You went for 2-1 Arsenal.
Oh, well, there you go. That's a great prediction.
4 points for you. Well done to you, my friend.
Thank you.
Not bad, Jack.
Not bad. It's patronising. Keno, you went for you went for the... Well done, Jack. Well done for guessing the score. Well done. Keno, you went with 1-0 Sutton. Oh, the dream was there, but not quite.
I also predicted that Wayne Shaw would eat a pie. So.
Did you? We'll come on to that.
Actually, that would land me in some trouble, wouldn't it? So I didn't
Depends,
predict that.
depends.
Did you tell him to eat the pie?
Oh, dear me.
Was it a pie? We'll talk about it later.
Just quickly on that, boys. I don't know if you know, but sun bets is a thing. I don't know if anyone had heard about sun bets before.
Unfortunately.
Interesting. I made this cunts. Anyway,
I'm glad you said it. It was on the tip of my tongue, and I was like,
not
I won't
a problem.
say it.
I went for 4-0 Arsenal. I thought it'd be a demolition job. Now I didn't get the score right, but I do get 3 points for the correct result. I do what I said 3 or 4, but then I stuck with 4 in the end, and I would have got an extra point. Annoying. Now this is where Ben does well. Huddersfield 0, Manchester City 0. Proudy, you went with 2-0 City. Jack, you went with 5-3 City.
Oh, I thought it was 6-3 I went for.
No, 5-3 I'm afraid. And Kino, you went with 2-1 City. So you all predicted City to win, so you all got 0 points. Benny Boy, though, predicted a 1-1 draw.
Psychic medium.
So gets his 3 points. You know, Huddersfield in form. No goals in that game. Very surprised there weren't any goals in that game. Well, I'll say I was surprised. Probably not surprised as you, Jack. You went for 8 goals. They were.
I mean, wait for the replay. Wait for the replay.
Wait for the replay. So let's carry on then. Right, okay, well, I guess they might do. Okay, so far, to give you an idea, I've got 12 points so far. Proudy has only got 4 points. Jack, I think you're on 7
More than Kino.
points.
That's what matters.
You're on 7 points, and Kino's currently just languishing behind on 3 points.
I'm not good on features.
No.
Really.
And on to our final game then. Final game, and this is to decide it all. Very interesting, this one. It was Wolves 0, Chelsea 2. Ooh. Now, interestingly, Proudy went with a 3-0 Chelsea win, so picks up 4 points.
Oh, no.
Jack, Goalfest, you predicted here. 4-2 to Wolves, disappointingly.
I mean, it was a 2-goal margin. Do I get half a point for that?
So no points.
Wolves scoring 4 against Chelsea.
Bradford beat Chelsea 4-2 once. Let us not forget.
They did once.
Oh, right.
Kino, you went for a 2-0 Chelsea win.
Hey.
So 5 points for
Kino. He's overtaken me. Well, I'll walk out now. See you later.
I take back what I said about me being bad at features.
And I went for a 2-1 Chelsea, so I was only 1 away and got myself another 4 points. So scores on the doors in 4th place even. I almost said 5th place there, Jack. But no, you do.
I might as well be in 5th. It's last.
Okay, all right. In last place with 7 points is Work the Space. It's you could have.
I should have just gone. I should have just gone with the big team every time for 3 points every one.
All right, Moody.
That could have been boring.
Lincoln was definitely the big team.
Bigger than Burnley.
In joint second with 8 points was Proudy and Kino.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say. I mean, this is why I do the feature and I don't take part of people. With 16 points and getting every single game correct in terms of what the outcome would be by the end of it, is me.
Did you go? Have you gone out and checked what you would have got for a 5-way on that as a bet?
Oh yeah, I never really thought about it like that.
Oh, you should have done that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well done. Great now, isn't it? Oh no.
Oh,
I bet you would have got.
No. Get on the replays.
With the Huddersfield draw and the Lincoln win, you would have got something half decent.
Yeah, I know. Oh no, I don't want to know.
I feel like my Chelsea guess of a result there was the equivalent of Leicester's away goal last night because I think it papered over the cracks of what was quite a poor performance.
Yeah,
really.
It was. I've got Kino. I'll back you there. 3 of them were dreadful. But there we are. That's why I win this week's feature. I've not won a feature for ages, so reasonably happy with that. And that does wrap it up.
You do make them though every week. So.
I do, and I don't get enough credit for that, if I'm completely honest. Right then, let's talk about the FA Cup. We'll kick off then with what was the biggest upset in FA Cup history. Is that fair?
It's up there.
I mean, the first non-league team in 103 years to be in the quarter-final.
Yes, that is. Yeah.
I'm giving it to them. I'm going to announce it now.
When they knock out Arsenal and then Chelsea in the final,
it's going to be embarrassing. Isn't it?
That's when it'll be the big ones.
So we have Burnley 0, Lincoln 1, and it was a game which I'm going to be honest wasn't that good for a long period. But Lincoln got the goal and it mattered. The real talking point of the whole day really was Joey Barton, Jack, who you're a big fan of.
I mean, I think he's a dick.
Okay.
I mean, I talked about Matt Reed. On the last show, I talked about big Matt Reed, the enforcer, him and Joey Barton, they clashed a few times. But Joey Barton, for a self-proclaimed kind of hard man, He likes to fall on the ground, doesn't he?
Yeah, he thinks he's hard.
If you go on Twitter, read through it. If you type in like Joey Barton diving and search for his tweets, you'll find tweets like, I think someone should get an 8-game ban if they dive.
My favourite part about this was the tweets he did after the game, where he was
it was quite ballsy of Barton, wasn't it, Kino?
It was, and he always fronts up on Twitter. I liked how he was like, I wasn't trying to get the big man sent off. Yeah. I mean, what were you doing then, Joey? Yeah. What was
you
the goal?
You provoked him by standing on his foot, and then you ran into his arm. I can't help but think.
It was funny because Matt Reid almost just looked a bit like bemused. He didn't really know what Barton was doing, and like, because there was no reason for Barton, who is the better, is the Premier League player in this game against a non-league team, trying to do all the little dark arts antics to give them the edge. He shouldn't need that. And Matt Reid was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, it was. He did have that look of, "What is he doing?" It was very very confusing. With Barton though. Is it like his excuses on Twitter were great because it was basically him going, "Oh no, I tried to duck and he moved his arm," and it's like, Jerry, mate, why are you trying to duck under a person's arm to begin with on a football pitch? Just go round him if it's that much of an issue. But I did think Lincoln played rather well. For me though, the Barton incident, when you see that Joey Barton is potentially trying to get you a talisman, would you say Matt Reid's a talisman, Jack? You obviously know him well.
I mean, he's I wouldn't say he's a talisman. Like, he's not the most skilled player, but he's definitely most impactful.
Yeah, he's similar to Grant Holt in many ways. It's very Grant Holty. And for me, if I'm a Lincoln player, I'm using that as, do you know what? If he has to try that against us, they're worries. And Burnley, for my money, didn't really create anything that clear cut.
No, they did have quite a lot of. I don't know how many of the changes that Sean Dyche made were forced. It wasn't a sort of. I
think there were 6 starters from the previous game.
Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't a full sort of wholesale change like a Ranieri did against Millwall. But there was quite a few changes. They didn't have their sort of first choice midfield too in the centre, and they just looked a little bit disjointed. Although having said that, Andre Gray on another day probably could have had a couple of goals because he missed one extremely good chance, which was sort of laid. I think pulled back to him. It could have been Boyd. I think pulled it back, and he sort of tried to take it first time, hit his shot. A few other chances from set pieces and stuff. So on another day they could have had a few, but that's the way these upsets always go, isn't it? It's as much the big side failing to take their chances as it is Lincoln superbly taking their one shot on target, which was the header at the end.
Nice to see 2 centre backs combine in that manner as well.
It was quite a good set piece. I mean, when I saw it live and on like the first replay, I was like, how does he have so?
It's like a basketball play, wasn't it? It was like when you shield it or whatever it's called.
Yeah, a free
screen. Thank you, Jack.
Resident NBA expert here.
Yeah, American sports. Jack, loves his hockey and stuff as well. But yeah, I thought like, how does he have that much time against a Premier League defence? But it was quite a clever corner, as you say. They kind of, it was NBA or sort of NFL style. Like they kind of held the centre backs out of the way, and then I think it was the wonderfully named Luke Waterfall who then headed it back over into the box. Had quite a lot of presence of mind to do that. And of course, it was just a tap.
There's probably a really good pun in there somewhere.
I will say, thank you for goal line technology. Sometimes it goes against you and you're annoyed. But in this game here, obviously, if it had been the reverse, if it had been at Lincoln, it could not have been given. It might.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah.
One of my favourite things about the whole game was that Ashley Westwood was on the bench when Villa lost to Spurs. Got his big move to Burnley, knocked out by Lincoln.
So I may have mentioned this last week, but it has been awful in 2017 as a Villa fan. The best moment was getting £5.5 million for Ashley Westwood, who has done exactly what every Villa fan would have expected him to do so far at Burnley, namely sort of look like he's invisible, even against Lincoln. It was quite comforting in a way to see him do that.
I will say for Lincoln, I think they deserve a lot of credit because, as we kind of saw with Sutton, a team who are actually struggling in their division, in some ways when you're playing the underdog, it becomes easier if it's kind of the style of play you're playing, kind of playing on the counter, playing on the break. So for a team like Sutton down at the bottom of their table, kind of week in, week out, their big focus is on their defending, whereas for Lincoln City, they're a team currently sat top of the National League. And I think it's obviously a big adjustment in style of play to suddenly play a team who are significantly better than you in a league where you are dominating, where teams are more likely to sit back against you and to kind of execute that game plan, which perhaps isn't one that you would necessarily perform in any other competition.
Yeah.
I do think the game played into Lincoln's hand, though. I tweeted out that it was funny really watching Burnley. This is the first time Burnley all season, you might say, have had to lead from the front, play out, and take control of a game. And frankly, they didn't look very good at it. They look like a team that don't do it very often, mainly because they don't do it very often. And it played into Lincoln's hand. It was a very, very, very it was dysfunctional. It wasn't a flowing game. It wasn't free flowing. No. It was Burnley come forward, lose it quite scrappily. Lincoln go forward, lose it quite scrappily, and it was just that over and over again. Burnley had a lot more of the ball, but apart from the one Andre Gray chance that they had, for me, he didn't create anywhere near enough against the Lincoln side. That for however well they're doing domestically in their league,
it sounds like they're from another country.
But they're
in
the
Champions League.
They're in the 5th tier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Burnley are top. Are they 12th or something like that? Like on the upper reach to the Premier League.
The issue for Burnley is this was probably their one chance at something to play for this year. You'd say they're largely kind of comfortable in their league now.
Baffling that they didn't go for it a little bit more. And they had a relatively strong team out as well. Not good. I think it says everything about football, though, doesn't it? That the week before, Burnley get a really well-spirited point against Chelsea, and then just the way football is, a week later, Lincoln beat them 1-0 on the same
Lincoln are going to beat Chelsea in the final.
You spoke at the same time there, one of you?
Yeah, go on, Jack.
I was just going to say Lincoln are going to beat Chelsea 1-0 in the final. That's how this works.
Don't worry about that, then. Don't worry about that. That's fine.
Don't worry about that. So moving on from Lincoln then, they played the winners of what was Arsenal versus Sutton. And I'll say now, I don't like the fact the draw happens before that game's happened. Have it straight after, if you're going to do it at all.
I think it made it a bit more exciting, though, knowing that Sutton had a chance to play Lincoln for a shot at a trip to Wembley.
No, it's not. Everyone should know, Jack.
I don't think the problem is with the draw being on the Sunday. I think the problem's with there being an FA Cup game on the Monday, as I said last week. Bring it on the Friday. Play it on the Friday if you want to do the draw on a Sunday.
Yeah, okay.
It's bad enough when you do the draw on the one show.
I don't. Do you know what does annoy me a little bit? It's a bit when they have the FA Cup draw for like the semi-final, when there's only like 2 combinations, and it's like a bit of a damp squib.
I mean, 3 combinations.
Well, I don't know. I reckon if it's Lincoln in it, it will be quite good. But we'll see. Arsenal will be.
It's over in about 2 minutes, though, isn't it? Like
they
cut to it from the news or something, and they're just sort of all they get all the cameras, go to Wembley and have it in the box.
See, what I think would make it more exciting is if you ranked all the teams based on their place in the English pyramid and like their exact position in the league, and the lowest placed team get to pick who they play in the next game. That's how the FA Cup should work. Do it like a draft.
What do you know? This is one of your worst ideas ever.
Well, no, because I saw someone tweet in the questions, how would you change football or like a rule? This is how I do it. So Sutton United...
Sorry, so I'm going to stop you there, Jack. This is because, viewers, Jack is very soon going to be taking an MLS save on his Football Manager YouTube channel. And in that, the worst team gets to pick the best sort of free agent, don't they, in the draft? And you're trying to put this into the FA Cup.
Well, no, I just think it'd be more exciting if it's that, right, Sutton, you're the lowest ranked team left in the competition, go up to the board and pull out the name of the team that you want to play. And they pick out, it's like, do we want Lincoln or do we want the big game for the money? You give the clubs a choice then. And it favours the underdogs.
So in the semi-final, Jack, when it's Manchester United, Chelsea, Spurs, and Southampton, can Southampton pick who they want to play in that?
Well, yeah, they'd be the lowest placed team remaining in the
competition.
This
is awful. It's the worst
idea The thing is, though, in the early stages of the FA Cup, if you were to do it, it'd mean you'd end up with loads of little teams in the 4th round. Because they'd all be playing against each other.
And then it wouldn't be about who was the best. Move on, Ben. This is...
I think it's dreadful. Certain fans have been thrown off this week, Jack, and you've
I'm not being funny. If there's going to be a 32-team World Cup or however many teams it is,
48.
We can do we can do what we want to the FA Cup.
Whatever it is, yeah. We can do what we want to the FA. We can't, listeners. Sorry, I hate to say it, for the fans do have no influence over the FA Cup. Now, as much as we would have loved to have seen Sutton play Lincoln in the next round, Arsenal did win the game. Perez scored for them. What, do we not see enough of Perez? I mean, Arsenal fans are a bit annoyed they don't see more of him.
I mean, they paid a lot of money for him.
It is a puzzling one because he seems to have done, either scored or assisted or looked quite good in a lot of the games that he's played. I know he had a few injury problems after he first joined and missed sort of the autumn and winter, the beginning of the winter. But yeah, he seems to actually be quite a dynamic player for them, and certainly offers a little bit more than I would say Alex Iwobi has in the last few months at least. I think his form's tailed off. He started the season very well.
Yeah.
And Perez offers something a little bit different, and it is a bit puzzling as to why. I mean, along with the hundreds of other things about Arsenal that don't really make sense, why Perez doesn't get given a chance at it.
The talk is, this is completely conjecture, I don't know if this is true, that Wenger didn't really want him. It was a case of, we have to buy someone, probably a striker, to make the fans happy.
What a ridiculous situation!
And this is the striker they brought in. That's the talk. And whether that's just talk or whether there's more truth to it. So there's a little bit of talk as well that Perez was unhappy. Go on.
It reminds me a little bit of when I know Arteta ended up being quite a good player for them, but when he went and bought Mertesacker, Arteta, and one other player in the last couple of days of the window.
You get Flamini on a free back, was it that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was that. It was probably about 4 years ago.
Look at all the transfers.
But it was almost like he was driving around the UK or Europe. He's like, do you want to come in? Yeah, you want in on Arsenal? Yeah, just come on, Lucas Perez. Get on the bus.
Stop by my house.
No.
No.
How about that, Jack? Anyway,
you suggested an idea like the one just before.
I hate that we're about to do this. I'm so Sutton fans. I'm so I mean, I say Sutton fans. There's not a great
football fans,
but I'm sorry, football fans, that we're going to have to talk about the bloody pie incident. When,
or was it a pasty? Who knows?
Who cares what it was?
Okay, can I just say
a pastry? It was a pastry.
The issue is the bet was on a pie. He wasn't eating out of a tin, and for a pie to be a pie, in my opinion, it has to be served with a tin tray underneath.
What if you have it on a plate?
Well, then that's different. But if you get because if you go to Greg's, like if you cook your own pie and serve it out on a plate, that's different to going to the football and getting a pie. Have you ever got a pie at a football match that didn't come with a tin?
It's made me more aware, Jack, that I've never had a pie at a football match.
You're missing out.
I don't think I have either.
I've had Bovril quite a few times, but I've never
quite a few. I had burgers, lots of burgers,
Mars bar, that sort of thing. I've never had a.
Okay, well, I'm telling you now, as a man with experience.
Oh, okay.
With burgers. With pies. It has to be served with.
Go on, sorry. It's just naming.
I can't believe we're having this conversation about what's a pie and what's a pastry.
I tweeted out.
You started it, Jack.
The worst thing is, right, I tweeted out saying that I can't believe we live in a world where a footballer has had to resign from his job.
We should probably talk about what actually happened for, international listeners or anyone who doesn't know.
I mean, it was top of Reddit on Not the Onion, so...
All right, let's start this again. So Arsenal won 2-0. They've got a substitute keeper who's...
a big lad.
His name is unbelievably after all this. But
Wayne Shaw.
Wayne Shaw is he a coach as well as a
assistant
player?
I think he actually works at the club as well. I feel like he lives in a room.
Regardless,
at the club.
he's a big lad, and he was pictured eating a pie. Now the controversy surrounding this is that Scumbets offered this bet out. Will Wayne Shaw eat a pie? Now it's quite obvious, in my opinion, that not only did they create the bet to have a little bit of a laugh and promote their brand of Scumbets, but they have paid him to then eat their pie, and someone has won big on it, causing the controversy. So
I don't think he actually got paid to eat it. I think the issue was some of his mates told him, "Oh, we've bet on it. Can you do it?"
Yes.
I don't think the issue was with him actually being paid. But the issue I have with this is
there's no way that Sky Bets aren't creating that. Do you know the shirt sponsors for Sutton, right?
Yeah. But what I'm saying,
Sky Bet's for anyone that's confused.
Yeah, Sky, definitely.
Oh, sorry, yes.
No, it was Sky. No, Sky. If you want to, I'd rather sponsor Sky than the Scum, so we'll just say Sky to feed the confusion further.
I don't know why you're doing that, but go on.
But the issue is that I don't think he's been paid to do it. Actually, I think some of his mates have said, "Oh, we've actually put a bet on this that you're in." But the issue is, if his mates go up to him and go, "Like, I've put a bet on you not to eat a pie." He could make the conscious decision not to eat it. It's not like a bet of skill. It's not like a footballer scoring first where that player obviously wants to score first. Wayne Shaw has a choice as to whether or not he wants to eat that pie.
Well, his size would suggest otherwise, Jack.
To me, it just seems it all seems so instigated and all so planned, and it's horrible. On one level, I feel a bit sorry for him because he's obviously been. I feel like he's been taken advantage of in this situation. People forget, right, when I've got no sympathy for him. Let's assume, allegedly, let's say Scumbets have given him 20 grand to do it because essentially that's advertising space for them. This whole thing has been really, hasn't it? Now let's say they've paid him 20 grand. This guy isn't on 20 grand a year probably. on his current job. He's a reserve keeper for a non-league.
43 years old as well.
Yeah. So if someone like I think if you've got a family, you'd probably go, do you know what? Let's just do it. I'll take the risk. Now, the media furore around it and the outcome of it is that he's had to resign. And I did tweet out that it's ridiculous that in 2017 we've got a situation where a professional footballer, by all accounts, has had to resign from his job because he's eaten a pie.
I mean, it's the magic of the cup, Ben. The magic of the cup.
Yeah, the magic of the cup. He made it disappear. So that is really the story around the Arsenal Sutton game, which is really sad, really. Do we just think it's all like if he's broken betting laws or someone has, then of course it should be investigated, and of course that sort of thing has to stay well away from football. But this isn't like a yellow card or a goal kick, is it, or a corner? This is a guy eating a pie.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I'm at the point now. A few days have passed. I just don't care anymore. But at the same time,
I guess my problem with it all is that it's a stupid bet, and he probably just wanted to eat a pie anyway. I don't think he's eating. Look at him. He's not eating a pie because of the bet. He would have eaten a pie anyway.
Of course, he's eating a pie because of the bet. Like, he's on the bench in that game.
I mean, he was in the pub. He was in the pub at half time. I don't know if you've seen those images. At half time, he went to the bar instead of the dressing room.
I would have absolutely loved, and I'm not. This would have been the best moment in football, confirmed. Is if around sort of the 80th minute, the Sutton keeper takes a knock, he can't carry on, and they look at Wayne, and he looks like, Wayne, get your kit on, mate. He's like, oh. And then imagine that he's like wiping his mouth as he goes towards his goal.
Well, some keepers keep a water bottle in the back of their net. Wayne keeps a bag of pies,
a selection of condiments. It's a dire situation. I should say though, and this really is what we should take from this. Sutton and Lincoln have both done extraordinarily well to get to this point anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and deserve a massive amount of credit. Although Sutton didn't go through, there is no disgrace losing to Arsenal. I mean, at the moment there is a little bit, but there's no disgrace losing to Arsenal. And I think their FA Cup run is something that all of their fans will remember. And it was their pie in the sky moment, wasn't it? Let's move on.
Life of pie.
Leicester. What is going on at Leicester? Millwall 1, Leicester 0 then. I just don't think they care.
Am I allowed to continue to wave the Ranieri out banner off the back of this loss?
Away you go, yeah.
The loss of the Champions League game.
Hang on.
We'll have a little break in a moment, and then we'll move on to Champions League in a minute. But focus on Leicester in the Cup.
I feel like in a month's time we could be looking at Leicester, and it's just like, well, Ranieri has to go. And the issue is, I don't think actually it's going to be that different a situation to it is right now. I mean, granted, yes, he has played a rotated side against Leicester, but if you're a Leicester fan, given the way your season's going, you want to try and win some silverware. And realistically, for a team like Leicester, for a team like, I guess, Middlesbrough is another good example of kind of that kind of team, and even for a team like Burnley, like the FA Cup at this stage is a fantastic chance for you to, get to Wembley, have a day out, and maybe even win some silverware.
It's interesting you say that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree. I think, actually, the example that we gave at the beginning of the show about Burnley, who are comfortably mid-table, I think they are probably more justified in fielding, in trying to go for the FA Cup, right? And as in the sense that they're less justified if Sean Dyche made 10 changes, say, in the same way that Ranieri's done it multiple times in this tournament, right? You add in the fact that they had this game, which we will talk about shortly, away at Sevilla in midweek, 4 or 5 days after this game, and I think it is kind of understandable. That being said, it doesn't excuse what, by all accounts, was an awful performance. And if you factor in the fact that same team had actually looked pretty good in the game that they won against Derby in the round before. I
mean, it went to extra time.
Yeah, but
you shouldn't forget that.
No, but they looked a lot better, you could probably argue, than the first team had done for quite a few games this year.
Yeah.
Derby also are in the league above Millwall and were also doing pretty well in the Championship. So there's no excuse for the team how poorly they played. The thing that I would maybe just say is that Ranieri and everyone at the club had their eyes on other things, which is probably why they lost, but it's still not excusable.
It must be. Go on, John.
I was just going to say, I feel like you can use the excuse of, he rotated his side and he wasn't maybe playing his strongest team with the anticipation of the games come up around. The reality is, when you've got players like Musa, who you splashed big money on, when you've got the likes of Damari Gray and Okazaki up top, you've got Amati, who was signed this year, Mendy as well. Like, this is a team that should be comfortably beating Millwall, and it's the kind of... A lot of these players who are playing are players who were brought in to help bolster Leicester's chances of competing across multiple tournaments with them knowing they had European football.
I think it's very much a mentality thing. I think these players... Yeah. When you're in a team and when you're in a squad that are losing a lot of the time, week in, week out, getting pelters from left, right and centre, you're part of a squad that won the league last year. The come down from that must be unbelievable. As much as the rise is like astounding and fantastic, the come down must be so much of the reverse of that. It must be crazy. Now, if you're picked for this game, you instantly know, like, I'm not playing away at Sevilla. Like, what can I do against Millwall that's going to justify my selection in that game? It must be quite difficult then to motivate yourself to try and get into a team which then isn't even playing very well. And I think you're right that players like Musa and Okazaki and Damari Gray and Andy King should be enough to beat a Millwall side. You're absolutely right, they should be. But it's quite clear there is a confidence crisis at Leicester. It's not just a player problem, it's a confidence. The bigger issue probably is the confidence thing. You look, last year we spoke endlessly about how good Leicester are because of the team spirit. There isn't one right now. And that is why they are where they are in the league. That's why they're out of the FA Cup. And that's why likely they're going to lose to Sevilla, which is no disgrace. We'll talk about it in a minute. But at the same time, this Leicester team they're barely a shadow of what they were last year.
As I said, it reminds me very much of what I saw with Villa last year. The confidence in the team is so low. And the argument that people make when they complain about the number of changes that managers sometimes make in cup competitions, particularly if their team is not playing well, is that a good win in the cup can actually sometimes, give you confidence just by winning a game against whoever it might be. Now that I'm not always sure that holds true.
Not if in the Champions League. I think if Leicester aren't in the Champions League,
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, this game's very different. I think Leicester do go for this and think, you know what, we might as well go for something this season. There's no Premier League game. They play Liverpool next Monday, so they have plenty of time. They could have played a full strength side. Yeah, I think the whole idea of being in the Champions League, struggling in the Premier League, and knowing that you're part of the second team, as all of those things surely mentally contribute to Leicester's failings.
We mentioned. I was going to say, we've spoken about Leicester a lot, and we mentioned that how good a run Sutton and Lincoln have been on. Millwall from League One, they're now into the quarterfinals, and they've beaten 3 Premier League teams on the way.
Yep, every single time.
Is incredibly impressive because although this particular case in Leicester was a bit of a kind of almost an odd one out, a bit of an anomaly. They beat not only Watford. Who did they beat first in the third round?
It was one of the trio that Paul Merson predicted would win the tournament. I can't remember
Southampton. Possibly.
I'm so sorry, I can't remember. But sorry, Millwall fans.
Yeah, but that run that they've been on is great, and who do they have in the quarters? Come on, Ben, help me out.
Tottenham away. That's going to be a great. That game has gone under the radar.
London
Can I
derby,
just say,
isn't it?
with all the other games going on, that game has gone under the radar. I also put, like Man United, Chelsea. I was about to say Sutton.
It's a game right out
Lincoln
of
v Arsenal.
Right out of Green Street, that game.
Well, it should be noted as well. Millwall, 52 minutes, go down to 10 men, and then score in the 90th minute. It's a really good result. We can talk about Leicester's failings, but we're touching on Millwall. It's such a good result and such a lovely run. You do fear,
I did enjoy the goal. Yeah,
you do fear that Tottenham will probably be a little bit too far.
Spurs look very good against a Fulham team who are in decent form in the Championship.
Yeah.
They're maybe an outside bet for the playoffs. But Harry Kane was incredibly impressive. I know they were playing it was interesting because although Pochettino's sort of in the cup competitions, particularly at Southampton, has tended to play a weakened team, Spurs had a pretty strong side out there, which kind of maybe reflects how you might feel about their chances in the league at the moment. And he played a strong team and they look really good. And they are a strong chance to win this season. And the last cup that they won, I think, was under Juande Ramos. It was the Carling Cup or whatever it was at that point. In
Chelsea?
Yes, in the final. Was it 2008 or 9? So it's been a while.
A long time.
It's been a while since silverware. So they could go for this. They should do.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably worth saying at this point then that Tottenham did beat Fulham 3-0. Elsewhere, then Manchester United beat Blackburn at 2-1. We'll just sort of flick through the rest of them. A good win for United. Came back after going a goal down. Danny Graham with a lovely goal, by the way, I must say. I enjoyed it. Nice little run, finish. Rashford and Ibra on the score sheet for Manchester United. Ibra's good, isn't he? Still good. I mean, Shock horror, everyone.
Newsflash.
Huddersfield 0, Manchester City 0. Great result for Huddersfield. City will probably be quite disappointed that they've got another game in their calendar now, but it's their own fault in many ways. Middlesbrough 3, Oxford 2. Decent effort.
This was a good game.
Yeah,
this was a good game.
Decent effort by Oxford, but I mean, who could have accounted for Middlesbrough scoring 3 goals in a game, people? That's the real shock of the whole thing.
Rudy Gested's level.
Rudy Gested. What play against Oxford? That's probably right.
And another $5.5 million in the bank for him as well. So
and then finally,
how much did you spend on McCormack?
Well, I mean, you could add those two together and add 3 million on Jack, and it still won't be enough. Chelsea 2, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0. Chelsea, of course, progress as well. It makes for an interesting round now. Like the quarterfinals now is very interesting indeed. Lincoln will obviously play Arsenal. You've got Chelsea United meeting, which, I love a Titanic battle in the FA Cup.
I mean, Mourinho's going to love it.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see who takes that more seriously. I'm interested. Of course, Millwall play Tottenham, and then you've got the final game, which is the winner of Huddersfield, Manchester City, will play Middlesbrough. Who are their favourites at this point then?
Lincoln.
Lincoln, right. We'll do some predictions when they come around again. Is there a favourite? Is Chelsea too obvious? Tottenham look very good, as Kino says.
I think there is.
Chelsea got the benefit of no European football, haven't they? Like they've got United coming up,
true.
In the Europa League still.
The domestic double would be a very good target for Conte to go because let's face it, they can cruise to the league title now. Yep. I think it would be a good way to sort of cap off a great season. Would be to get a domestic double.
I'm convinced now. I think Chelsea will do it actually. Now you mention it.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, Mourinho will very much enjoy. I think it's at the Bridge as well.
See, my worry is Mourinho rotates his side and then uses that as an excuse and says, we're focusing on Europe. Yeah. That is a very Mourinho thing to do as well.
It is a very Mourinho
It's like a little kid thing to do, isn't it? Where you're like, I didn't care though. Like you lose again. Didn't care.
At least we've got Europe to think about and not you.
What's the time, Jose? Not telling you? You don't know, do you? Not telling you. Right. Thanks, Jose. Thanks for that. It's a bit like that. Right then, that's going to bring us to the end of our FA Cup roundup. We'll be back with some Champions League chat and a very quick Premier League preview after this short break. This particular podcast for the Fans Show have linked up with ClassicFootballShirts.com, the home of the classic rare retro vintage football shirts. All of the shirts are original and officially dating from the seasons in which they were worn. You can find a referral link on Twitter in IG description. If you're interested in that sort of thing, get yourself one. Honestly, the range is ridiculous. There's a Norwich away kit, a Parma home kit, anything you want. It's madness. Okay, folks, welcome back. A little bit of Champions League chat then. There are 2 teams in England, or from England, I should say, competing in the Champions League.
There's Arsenal as well, Ben.
This week. Well, Arsenal played Bayern Munich, and I don't want to say it was predictable, Arsenal, but it was pretty predictable.
Can I just say,
go on.
I love the fact Arsenal have finished top of their league. PSG finished second in their league, in the same group. Arsenal lose 5-1, PSG win 4-0.
Stunning results, like in both games, really. I mean, Arsenal aren't awful, but Bayern Munich made them look very, very awful. And strangely enough, PSG did the same thing to Barcelona. Who saw that coming? Not me. Predicted Barcelona to win it after years of saying, I think PSG have got a chance. Ibra leaves. I think, right, forget PSG. And then they give Barcelona the.
There was a lot of goals across the board in the Champions League in this round of fixtures. There were some really, really exciting games, and
no more so than at the Etihad. Manchester City 5. That's 5. Monaco 3.
I mean, at this point, can I say that the FA Cup prediction I made last week was actually for this game?
Okay, lies are not appreciated, Jack. So
I said 5-3.
You're going to have to ignore that. It is, I mean, Kino, you've written it in the notes and I will confirm. It is one of the best games I've caught a glimpse of in a long, long time. It was just back and forth, bit of everything. Falcao looked like the player we remember. And then City come out winners.
Can we talk about the Falcao goal just to start things off? Because that's what I will remember about this game.
It was a chip that sort of defied conventions around goalkeeping.
Shouldn't have done it
because
have done it.
Yeah, no, he shouldn't have done it. He somehow made it work because Cavallero wasn't that far off his line to begin with. It was a really odd angle. He wasn't Cavallero wasn't diving at Falcao's feet, so there was no sort of as you say, there was no reason for him to try and chip it over him. And the fact that he managed to get it over a fully sort of stood up, arms in the air, Caballero, who's not a small guy either, was amazing. And it was just an incredible bit of skill. Totally unnecessary, but that was what was so good about
needless. It was that, you're right there. That is what made it fantastic. It's just the idea of oh, God, where shall I put this? I'm just going to chip him. And
it
it's
was the
strange
strength that he showed as well, actually, to get in that position. That was impressive for me.
For me, I always like when a player that has maybe failed in the Premier League but shown so often before that he could be a fantastic player does something against an English team in Europe, and you just think, like, Ibra had it for years, really. And now now are we kind of going, oh, actually, no, he is quite lethal.
We saw Di Maria do that for PSG. When we just mentioned PSG, he was fantastic in that game against Barcelona.
A really good example of it as well. I guess we'll start with the negatives for City. I know they've conceded 3, and although they've scored 5, they take the lead, but it's not good to concede 3 at home. John Stones, who I've defended quite a lot actually on this podcast, had a pretty torrid time. You talk about the strength of Falcao. It's Stones that he quite expertly muscles off the ball for the finish.
This was one of those games where, you were watching, again, comparing it to the PSG game, I watched that fantastic game, and one that went on the same night, the Atletico game, which was a great game. I watched that thinking, these are two teams, this is a fantastic game, and they're sort of stating their credentials to win the tournament, right? And while this game was also probably even a better game as a neutral, as a spectator to watch, they were almost both teams were demonstrating why neither of them, I think, can win the Champions League with the defences that they both have. And while Monaco conceded 5, and after about an hour they seemed to just give up, as you said, the City defence, particularly in the first half, we saw the exact same frailties that we've seen all year, just made even more obvious by how quick and direct Monaco were going forward. Stones, for the goal that you're referring to, I think he probably should have got rid of it earlier. I don't think it was one of the worst bits of defending we've seen from him this year, which kind of says something. But he was, caught lacking several times throughout that night. And you fear for them in the away leg, as you say. Monaco have a 2-goal deficit to make up, and if they score those 2, it's probably over because of the away goals. So it's going to be tough. Stones needs to up his game.
Monaco are going to be kicking themselves. I was just saying, Monaco are going to be kicking themselves now because, of course, they missed a penalty to make it 3-1.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a big
turning
point.
That was really the turning point. And I guess from a City point of view, you could argue, and we could probably talk about this, that they should have had a penalty in the first half. And I did think that was quite harsh on Aguero to book him for diving there, because we often see people book for diving when there's absolutely no contact. And it was one of those where, obviously, there was contact, and the keeper... was it Subasic, actually? Was it the defender Subasic? The challenge on him. But there was contact there. And you just think that if Aguero almost carries his run on until the contact's made, he gets that every day of the week.
Yeah.
He goes down a little bit before the contact, and that gives the appearance of it being a dive, where I don't really think it was. And if they'd have had that, then maybe that would have been... I think that was justice in the Caballero penalty save, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd go along with that. Interesting, isn't it, that Monaco, top of the Ligue 1 at the moment, they've got... This is remarkable when you think about it. 26 games gone. Monaco have scored 76 goals in 26 games. So that's 26 more than PSG, who are behind them. I'll just quickly round off my little bit on this game. There were a couple of players that stood out for me really quickly for Monaco was Mbappe, who I could not believe was only 19 years old, with how good he looks in that game. A lot of big clubs looking at him. Also Bernardo Silva, some of his dribbling and passing kind of looked like his namesake for City, actually, throughout a lot of that game. Both were really impressive. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that Monaco... I'm just looking at Monaco's league table. I hadn't really paid much attention to it until now. But so Monaco, as mentioned there, 26 goals more than PSG. I can't get over 76 goals in 26 games. Remarkable.
Well, I did want to bring up something in Ligue 1, which is the fact that Nice, who are, of course, beneficiaries of the fact that Monaco and PSG are both looking like they could do okay in Europe, they're in third. They're only 3 points behind the teams at the top. Mario Balotelli, another player who didn't really prove himself in the Premier League necessarily.
Got sent off for the third time this last weekend.
The top 4, he did. The top 4 in France is really interesting. Lyon are fourth. Now, the interesting thing about this is that Nice are third. They've lost the least amount of games. They've only lost 2 games, drawn 8. Lyon behind them have drawn 1 game and lost 10. If Lyon had turned some of those losses into draws, they'd be right up there alongside Nice. PSG level on points with Nice with 56. And despite scoring... This is what amazes me, really. Despite scoring 26 more goals, and this really does sum up Monaco as a team, is they're only 3 points ahead of PSG, which the difference is Monaco won a game where PSG lost one. That's the only difference. It's crazy. So I really hope the second leg is another sort of 5-3 thriller. And by the looks of Monaco, it may well happen again, which would be fantastic.
One thing I will say about this game is that oftentimes teams will have, we've just seen it with Leicester, will have a kind of decent result away from home. It's safe in the knowledge that when they go back to their place, there will be a great atmosphere and there's that kind of comeback sort of mentality. Monaco won't have that at the Stade Louis II, which is notoriously has one of the sort of the worst atmospheres in the top European leagues.
You'd hope for a game like this, though.
No one turns up. Maybe.
It'll get a bit giddy. You think about how well that team are doing. I don't know. Monaco won 7-0 this year. Quite a lot, 6-0, 5-0, 4-0 as well. Unbelievable. On the other side of the coin, then, City march on and will be going into their game against Monaco with an advantage. Leicester, they will not be going in with an advantage, but Jack will be going in with an away goal, which is very important in Europe.
So it is, and it's an overdue goal for Jamie Vardy. It was something like 700 minutes without a goal.
Would you be happy? Yeah, it was. Would you be happy with this 2-1 if you're a Leicester fan? I think that's pretty reasonable.
I think when you consider you were 2 goals down, obviously, and also had a penalty saved, for spells of this game, they had been in trouble. When you consider the fact that I think they had something like 26% possession, it was a tiny amount by the end of the game.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where you've kind of held out and you now hope that you can go to the King Power and hopefully just have one of those kind of, I guess, games like Leicester had so many of last year. They've been lacking them really, where they're able to grind out results against bigger teams. And
to be clear, in the first half of this game, Leicester could easily have been 4 or 5 goals down. We forget that Correa missed a penalty after, I think it was about 20 minutes. Maybe it was even a little bit earlier than that. And the amount of possession and chance. It wasn't the possession that Sevilla had in this game was not kind of sterile possession where Leicester sort of defended resolutely and weren't sort of beaten at any point by Sevilla. Sevilla were consistently getting in behind the Leicester defence, and they were very, very, very unlucky not to have, as I say, several goals in the first half. To give credit to Ranieri. The performance that they gave after half-time was a lot more as you would have expected from a team away from home at such a good team in the Champions League. They seemed to really kind of switch on a little bit, broke with a little bit more purpose and defended a lot more sort of resolutely. And so he obviously did something at half-time, and credit to him for that. But this performance, while the result is good for Leicester, the performance and the way in which they did get that goal, as good a ball as it was from Drinkwater to Vardy, and as big as that goal is, belies the fact that for much of the game they were second best, like clearly second best for a lot of it.
It'll be interesting to see how Sevilla do away from home. They're not the same animal away from home.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fascinating to see how they approach the game against Leicester and how Leicester approach it. 27% for Leicester last year, possession-wise, wouldn't have been that much of a problem. In a team that aren't scoring goals on the break, it is an issue. And I think you're absolutely spot on when you say they're quite lucky, really, to be in this position. But I think a lot of teams in Europe, no matter how their game went, wouldn't be too disappointed with a 2-1 defeat away to Sevilla, who are very good when they get rolling. So
and we see it every year in the Champions League. The best teams don't always go through, and the best teams don't always win the tournament. And because of just the way that the games go, and I think the away goals rule sort of has a bit of a part to play in this. You do need that element of luck at times to get through ties.
I don't think you would bet against. There won't be many people going, Leicester have got no chance, which I think is key for Leicester.
Exactly.
So, unbelievably, Leicester have got a far better chance of going through than Barcelona have right now. So we'll have to wait and see.
For sure.
Shall we? I previewed that we might talk about the Premier League. There isn't that much going on in the Premier League. There are games going on. The big games, really, Liverpool, Leicester on the Monday. But we will talk briefly about Southampton versus Manchester United in a cup final. It's the Capital One Cup final. Where do we see this going then? This is going to be our little prediction for the week, I think. Where do we see this sort of game going?
It's a big game. It's a big game for Southampton, who... is it their first sort of cup final for quite some time?
I can't remember them being in one. I was thinking about this earlier. I can't remember Southampton being in a cup final for a while. Whether it be, playoff final, does that count within one of those?
That's what I was going to say. That's probably the last time.
I think I remember an FA Cup final in sort of maybe 2001 or 2. Saints fans will probably confirm this, which might have been against Man United actually as well. And I vividly remember, because you know when you're growing up and you remember certain matches as like ones that you kind of remember because they're kind of your first big games or whatever that you watch on TV. I remember that FA Cup final. I was probably 6 or something.
Right. Do you want me to fill you in on that?
Southampton were in that. Sorry?
Do you want me to fill you in on what it was?
Yeah.
It was Arsenal 1, Southampton 0 in 2003. Yeah. That was at the Millennium Stadium. I think Thierry Henry scored the goal.
Yeah, I remember that game quite well, actually.
That's when James Beattie was an absolute... For those that are confused when that was, that's when James Beattie was an absolute...
prospect
machine, and Arsenal were essentially just pre-invincibles. So it was... I mean, what a time that was. Do you know what? Southampton and Arsenal fans would probably welcome that time back, if I dare say. The Arsenal team there, Seaman, Laurent, Keon, Lusny, Cole, Lundberg, Silva, Parla, Perez, Bergkamp, Henry. Oh, dearie me. Those were the days, Arsenal fans. Sorry, some Arsenal fans will be getting the tissues out, good grief, for multiple reasons. I shouldn't have said that. I've lost my train of thought.
Southampton they've done well to get here, not just because obviously it's great for them to get to a final, but actually the teams they played a Premier League team in every single round. They played Sunderland, beat Arsenal, beat Liverpool, and who else did they beat?
Palace and Sunderland. Oh, so you say Sunderland?
I didn't say Palace, but yeah, Palace was in the third round. So they've done very, very well there. Like to get it. It's not like they've had an easy route.
There is one thing about this game that is a bit of a warning for me. I don't know how many points Southampton are away from safety. They've not had a great year, and their form, particularly in 2017, hasn't been good. I have a bit of a feeling around this cup final, if Southampton do win it, the kind of win the Carling Cup.
Yeah, job done. Season's done.
On the beach for the rest of the year. Yeah. I get that feeling about Southampton, who have been, as I say, inconsistent at best.
They've got the same amount of points as Burnley, but they're in the Burnley Watford. They're 11th, so
and you'd think that they'd be safe.
Yeah, they'll probably be all right.
If that, the curse of the League Cup does sort of happen again, if they do win it, which obviously they have to beat a pretty good United team to do so, it could maybe give a bit of sort of complacency that could see them slide. I'm not necessarily saying them, get relegated, but there's a chance that could happen with them. Despite that, it would be a really good win for Puel.
My favourite little stat for Southampton in the Carling Cup is they've not conceded a goal in it yet.
That's amazing.
Yeah, beat Palace 2-0.
We've got to start calling it the Carling Cup. It's not the Carling Cup.
What is it at the moment? Capital One?
EFL. I asked Jack this before the show. It's just the EFL Cup.
That annoys me. But no, weirdly as well. I'm just sorry. This is the Southampton loving right now. Southampton fans, I hope you're looking forward to this. They went out of the Europa League despite having the same points to the team in second and a better goal difference. But I think they went out because it's Hapoel Beersheva got an away goal against them.
Maybe head to head.
That's well. The thing is, they drew 0-0 and then 1-1, and I think that away goal has knocked them out.
Yeah, that would have been it.
Which is crazy, isn't it?
Can I just say, a little bit off topic, did you guys know the FA Cup quarter-final this year doesn't have replays?
I didn't know that, but I like that.
Well, there you go. Yeah. I didn't know that, so...
I think that's quite good. That with the fixture sort of schedule as it is, I think, on a more kind of general point, I think they should probably be getting rid of replays in the FA Cup altogether.
I think they should go back to infinite replays.
Well, they used to have that in the final, didn't they? In the FA Cup, we used to get cup final replays, or maybe in the League Cup they did it. But you used to have replays of cup finals, which is mental, and like at different venues as well.
Yeah,
glad we don't have that anymore.
Yeah. Does that wrap up our... So, just yes, Kino, they do.
Should we get score predictions for the final? We've not really talked about Manchester United, but obviously for them, they're in a lot of competitions, but they're going to want to win this. Mourinho's not someone to take a final lightly.
They will be. They will be without Mkhitaryan as well, because I think that he limped off with a hamstring injury last night against St Etienne, and obviously we should say they went through quite comfortably. But the black spot from that game was that he did go off, so could be a big miss for them at Wembley. Potentially affect their team.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Are you all right, Ben? See you in a bit.
That's horrifying.
What's the time? It's 10-8. Is he?
I'm very tired. I'm not tired at all. Right, so let's get some predictions then. Jack, we'll start with you. Who's winning it? Who's taking it? Who's qualifying for Europe?
Southampton.
They're back in it. That'd be good for Southampton, actually. What's the score, though?
It's going to go to penalties. They're going to sub on Charlie Austin with his fucked up shoulder.
Keno,
And he's going to limp up and take the penalty to win.
So I think that...
Should have known better.
Yeah, you can't give him the opportunity to do that. You can't give him the opportunity.
Love you, Charlie. Keno.
What are we talking about?
What's the score? What's going to be the score? It's your fault, Jack. What's going to be the score for Manchester United versus Southampton at Wembley Stadium on Sunday?
I think if it goes to extra time, I back United. 1-0 to United in extra time. A classic Mourinho sort of. He's got a very, very good record in cup finals at Wembley.
Let me think about this then. I think I might go very bold here. I'm going to go with score. I'm going to go with who's getting the goals. And I'm going to go with a picture at the end of it. So I think we might see Big Zane Zlatan bag a hat-trick in a 3-1 win.
You better put a bet on that.
If it does happen, I'm going to be fuming.
Don't tell Wayne Shaw.
That's what I'll go with. I think Southampton are good. I just think United have got quite a lot. Despite United's squad being a little bit of a mess, in my opinion, they've got some big game players. And I think Ibra will relish the opportunity to be on the big stage. I think that's where he likes to be. He feels at home there. And I don't think every Southampton player will feel exactly like that.
Jose Mourinho has won 10 out of 12 of his sort of cup competition finals.
That's a good record. I think there's a good chance they'll do it. I think it'll be I dare say it'll be quite a dull game, but Ibra will light it up with a hat-trick. There you are. There's a prediction for you.
It's a pretty good one, actually. Yeah.
Right then, let's take a look at some Twitter questions. Keno, you're on the old Twitters. You tweeted out. You got some replies, I'm hoping. Have you got anything interesting in terms of Twitter questions?
I'm just looking through them now. We had a lot of questions this week, which is pretty good.
Excellent.
For the fan show on Twitter. Someone spelt my name wrong here, so he's not getting his question read out, and he's also made a championship joke. So, we'll start on a bad note.
Do you guys want to know a championship joke?
Go on.
Aston Villa.
Yeah.
Oh no, I did.
Yeah, fine.
An early did. It's a late thing, actually.
We mentioned, obviously, we've spoken about Leicester quite a bit this show. Joshua Hutton asks if Claudio is still in charge of the Foxes next season. Is the back four a critical area for improvement in the summer? I can't remember who mentioned this. I think it was one of my housemates while we were watching the Leicester game. Right? Why did Ranieri, of all the signings that he made across the team in the summer, not sign any defenders?
Well, he's just been sacked, Keno. So, literally a minute ago.
Well, there you go. Ranieri out. Ranieri out live.
You're joking.
He's just been sacked.
There you go. I told you. I called it last week. Go back to last week's show. Play the clip now.
This is.
He's just been sacked. As we record this, he's just been sacked.
All of our show has just been.
Well, I said he should be sacked.
Amazing.
I said I could see him gone in the 4 weeks, but he's gone in less than that.
The listeners have experienced genuine speechlessness.
I went to put my hand on Ben's leg and realised he wasn't sat next to me. I've gone for the full-on Henri, the shock moment, but he's not there.
Where did the hand go?
Just in the air.
Oh no! I've just seen the problem is, right, let's talk about Ranieri then.
Sorry listeners.
We've got to.
Sorry listeners.
Impromptu extension of the show.
The three favourites for the Leicester job, I mean, I'm going to do a swear. They're fucking Alan Pardew, Nigel Pearson and Avram Grant. I mean, is it worth it? I mean, Pardew in the Champions League, I can't handle that. Oh no.
He'll come in and he'll win them the Champions League and do a little dance.
I kind of agree with Jack. If you're going to do it, you kind of got to do it right now.
I did say 4 weeks, and they've done it now, which I think's kind of what I was kind of hinting at. I'm surprised they didn't give him the Champions League, but I guess
it's a good job. This is almost like a live show now. It's a good job that we didn't stop recording. I see, listeners, behind the curtain. Ben, I have done an edit here.
All right, not behind the curtain,
listen,
right behind the curtain.
Listen, we were going to end the show. I suggested us do Twitter questions. That extended the show to the point where we've got this segment in. Which is amazing because we could have totally missed it.
Hodgson.
It was meant to be.
Yapstam.
I think
Yapstam from Reading he's a shout. I tell you what, if you want to motivate you, just get Jaap Stam.
No. If you want to win the Champions League,
Hold
Roberto
on.
Di Matteo. Di Matteo, get him in. He's won it before.
Oh, no.
It's true. It's true.
I thought you were going dual.
No.
Forget it.
Well, actually, listen, boys, it's only just happened, right? If we get the show out tonight or tomorrow, we can start the dual campaign. We can get it trending. We can turn it into a rumour. So let's
Paul
here
Jewell.
and now,
Paul Jewell.
For the fans are publicly endorsing Paul Jewell
Keno
for the
is.
Leicester manager. Well, no, these two have just said his name as well.
I'm in
Yeah?
for this.
Are you in as well, Jack?
Well, I said Charlie
last
Austin's going to score a winning penalty and I get poo-pooed as soon as we're suggesting Paul Jewell wins it. I'm on board.
Right.
So listeners, tweet us just with Paul Jewell and we'll get it trending. And then
I think that's how trends work on Twitter, but...
No.
Right, I'm
Paul Jewell.
just tweeting out that Paul Jewell is the red hot favourite.
I mean,
the Leicester job.
I will say,
retweet if you agree.
I will say on this Ranieri thing, like, it does make me feel a little bit bad about what I said last week, because I did have a few people tweet me telling me they thought I was talking rubbish, saying I think they've got to sack him.
I kind of did as well, Jack. But I do you know what? I hold up my hands and say that you had the foresight.
The foresight was when they gave him the endorsement, wasn't it? We said that last week as well.
If you like, Jack, I'll give you an extra point for the feature, which means you're now level in second place.
Yes.
Proudy and Keno. Well done.
Thank you.
I do agree with Ben, though, that if you're going to do it, you've got a free hit at the Sevilla game. You've got a game against Liverpool at home that they're probably not expected to win. A little bit of time to actually... And enough games in the season to sort of keep them up. So it's quite sad, though, isn't it?
It's
quite sad.
It's sad that a manager that's brought Leicester their biggest achievement ever and potentially will ever bring for a very, very long time has gone in quite... I would imagine in Leicester tonight there's a great deal of sadness that it hasn't worked out, that it hasn't continued.
The thing that is, though, when we talked about it, I think last week, if they got relegated and he was in charge, it takes the sting out of it as much as if they sack him and they stay up.
I just feel like he's won the league.
See, I might agree with that, but there's so many rumours surfacing about the fact he's lost the dressing room, and even rumours he lost it at some points last year when they were doing well.
It's just, football's just ridiculous. I saw an interview pre-game with Jamie Vardy. It was on BT Sport, where probably less than 48 hours before this, he said, I want to clear something up. The players unequivocally, every one of us backs Claudio Ranieri. And this is breaking.
Sorry. I'm seeing we've got to respond live to this. I feel like, and I'm going to make quite a.
I mean, has this been confirmed at this point?
It's 100%. I'm seeing this all over Twitter right now. I'm just looking through. Now, for whatever reason, lots of football fans seem to think that Leicester are the devil for this decision. Leicester City's MO this season and last season is to stay in the Premier League. If any other look at the teams below them, they've all sacked their managers and got in someone else. This is a decision that had to happen at Leicester. Otherwise, the chances are they'd probably go down. They may well scrape through another round of the Champions League, but they will go down. Leicester, like, this is football, okay? There can't be much loyalty, no matter what he's won in the previous year. When if Leicester go down one division and all those players that have signed new contracts have to leave, like Jamie Vardy will be gone. He's on £100 a week. He's got to go. Mahrez gone. £100 a week, has to go. This is the decision that Leicester's board have to make. And I'm sure Claudio Ranieri, as much as he loved last year and as much as it will be the highlight of his career, understands the pressures of the board and the financial status of the club. They can't afford to go down. So they have to make this decision right now. I've got no idea why this idea of, Leicester, I hope they go down now. Well, it's all right. They probably would have done with Ranieri in charge with the way things are going. They've been awful. They lost to Millwall in the FA Cup. Sorry, Millwall fans, but they did. Like, it's... I don't know why people are getting so outraged. That's made me outraged.
We can officially say on this show, on that bombshell, we have to wrap it up. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's madness, isn't it?
I'll let me from about 10 minutes ago wrap up the show. And then you got to add this bit in, Keno.
No, it's because you didn't finish it.
I feel like this should go at the start of the show, which you just preface it with, by the way, this happened mid-show. We're putting it at the start.
No, because that'll then mess up the ending.
We don't need an ending.
Out, mate.
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
That then wraps us up for today. Do check us out on social media. Give us your thoughts on the Leicester job. I want to know, what do you think? Do you think I should be going for it? Should Paul Jewell be going for it? Jack, do you fancy a run at it?
Yeah, go on then.
Brilliant. Good, I'm pleased. Do let us know at ForTheFans Show on Twitter in the comment section. Do leave a like on the video as well if you've watched it all the way through. And from us at ForTheFansShow.com. We'll see you again next week for some more Premier League chatter. We love with care from Mitch. Until next time, was at For The Fans. Bye.
It's a sculpture of a gold Benji. It's perfection.
Keener, I think you're going to have to be calling for an oxygen mask over here, my friend.